While taking a shower at home, the woman discovered something eerie. From her phone's security camera, she spotted a masked figure in black approaching the bathroom. Unfortunately, her phone suddenly died due to low battery. Realizing the danger, she quickly locked the front door. When she returned to her bedroom to charge her phone, she found the masked figure staring at her through the window. The woman was terrified, but fortunately, the bedroom window had one-way glass, so the figure outside couldn't see her standing there. The figure then moved to the backyard. That's when she remembered. The back door was still unlocked. Just as she locked it, the figure caught up. He tried the doorknob, only to find it locked. Had he been discovered? He pressed his face against the glass to peer inside. The woman held her breath, pressed against the wall, not daring to make a sound. Suddenly, she noticed the figure had disappeared. The woman hurried to the basement, locking the final door behind her. Returning to her bedroom to charge her phone, she turned it on and checked the security cameras, only to see the figure still searching for other entry points. This couldn't go on. She decided to call the police, but her phone showed no signal. The call failed. The figure had already cut off the house's signal, preventing her from calling for help. Trapped in the house, she felt like a caged bird. The figure would eventually break in. She anxiously looked out the window, not knowing what to do. Looking up, she noticed a fire alarm on the ceiling. This was her chance to escape. If she could trigger it to alert firefighters, she could be saved. Going to the kitchen, she turned on the gas stove, but found the gas was empty. Luckily, there was a box of matches on the table. She lit the last match, and held it near the alarm. The alarm successfully went off. The woman went to the study, watching the figure through the window. She expected him to run away, but instead, he pulled out a remote control, pressed a button, and the alarm stopped. The woman was horrified. It seemed there was no escape today. The figure picked up a wrench, and began pounding on the door lock. The woman trembled with fear. 5 minutes later, the figure suddenly left. The woman checked through the peephole, confirming he was gone. This was her chance to escape. She headed for the kitchen's emergency exit. The next second, the figure emerged from the shadows. The woman was terrified. It turned out he had been acting, trying to lure her out. Now that he knew she was in the house, he picked up the wrench, and began smashing the glass. Just as the figure was about to break in, the doorbell rang. It was her food delivery. She ran to the second floor, shouting at the delivery person, trying to get him to call the police, but the distance was too far, and the delivery person couldn't hear her. The figure hiding in the shadows stabbed the delivery person to death. The woman screamed in horror. If she didn't find a way to escape, she would be next. That night, while the figure was distracted, she ran to her car trying to escape, but the car wouldn't start. Opening the hood, she found the figure had already cut the engine wires. He stood nearby, watching her. Terrified, she ran back to the house and locked the door. Through the glass, she asked the figure why he was doing this. Despite the woman's desperate pleas for mercy, offering him any amount of money he wanted, the figure remained silent, only writing "You must die today" on the glass. Then he pulled out a flamethrower, intending to melt the door lock. The woman inside picked up a kitchen knife and slowly approached the door. When the door was kicked open, she would stab him, but when the door finally opened, the frightened woman couldn't bring herself to strike, and instead ran to the backyard. When the figure followed the sound, she had already hidden under the floorboards in the attic. After the incident, when she returned to the house, she suddenly noticed her ex-boyfriend had appeared behind her. Frightened, she hugged him tightly, asking why he was at the house. "There's a killer chasing me," she said. The man explained that he had received a text from her wanting to get back together, which is why he came. But she had never sent such a text, and there was no signal in the house, so she couldn't have sent it even if she wanted to. She realized her ex-boyfriend was likely the masked figure outside. As he tried to approach, she cut his palm with the knife, then ran outside without looking back. She found the signal jammer, and reconnected the cut wires. Then she pulled out her phone to find signal. Once she had signal, she ran back to the house to call the police, but the figure appeared behind her again. The woman tried to strike first, but was thrown to the ground. During the struggle, she kicked off the figure's mask, and managed to escape. Hiding in the storage room, she dialed 911. The police said the nearest officer would take 10 minutes to arrive. During that time, she had to be careful. Going outside, she quietly crept behind the figure, pushing him into the bedroom and locking the door. But this wouldn't last long. 5 minutes later, the door was broken down. In the dim light, the figure carefully searched. He didn't know the woman was behind him with a dagger. Just as she was about to strike, her phone in her pocket suddenly rang. It was the police calling because they couldn't find the way. The figure threw the woman to the ground. At that moment, the police finally arrived. The figure had to abandon his plan and fled the house, but unexpectedly, he fell to his death while escaping. The police removed his mask, revealing he was indeed the woman's ex-boyfriend.